you know astronomers divide our solar system up into two groups, the outer planets and the inner planets. The inner planets consist of Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars, which are the four closest planets to the Sun. The inner planets formed under different conditions than the outer planets, and as a result, they have different features. As the solar system was forming, it was very hot, and most elements that didn't get pulled into the Sun remained in a gas state. An element is the most basic form of any substance that can't be broken down into simpler substances. However, the temperatures were cool enough for some heavy elements like magnesium, nickel, and iron to cool and form into solid pieces of dust. Over millions of years, gravity pulled much of the dust together to form larger pieces of rock. As these large pieces of rock orbited the Sun, pieces of dust and rock stuck to them when they collided. Eventually, enough of this material stuck together to form the huge pieces of rock that were the beginnings of the inner planets. As the inner planets formed, they also melted from within, which caused the heaviest elements to sink towards the center and the lightest elements to rise towards the surface. You will learn more about this in future studies of Earth science. However, it's important to know that as a result of this process, each inner planet is made of different layers of material. All of the inner planets are made of three different layers: a dense core, a mantle, and a thin rocky crust. The inner planets are also called the terrestrial planets, because the term terra, which means land or earth, refers to their rocky crusts. Heat from the core and mantle pushes hot liquid material up through the which causes plate tectonics and volcanoes. As you may already know, plate tectonics is the movement of the large plates that make up the crust of a planet. Volcanoes form when magma, or melted rock, rises to the surface and cools. The inner planets are relatively close to the Sun, so they have higher surface temperatures than the outer planets. In addition, the inner planets have a higher density because they were made from heavy elements. Density is the amount of material that is packed into the space an object takes up. The inner planets are smaller and have less mass than most of the outer planets. The inner planets have relatively thin atmospheres because they don't produce enough gravity to hold large amounts of gases near their surface. Now that you have learned the similarities of the inner planets, let's look at the features that make each of these planets unique. Drag the planet to the first orbit from the Sun to learn about Mercury. Notice that Mercury is much smaller in size compared to Earth. Mercury has a diameter, which is the width of a circular object measured through its center, of 4,878 kilometers. It is the closest planet to the Sun, even though it is 58 million kilometers away. Because Mercury's orbit is so close to the Sun, it only takes 88 Earth days to complete one revolution. Mercury rotates once around its axis every 59 Earth days. Mercury has no atmosphere to block or hold the heat from the Sun. As a result, it has an average daytime temperature of 427 degrees Celsius, which is hot enough to melt lead, and an average nighttime temperature of negative 173 degrees Celsius. Since Mercury is so close to the Sun, viewing Mercury through a telescope from Earth is like trying to see a candle in front of a spotlight. For this reason, astronomers knew very little about Mercury until the space probe Mariner 10 passed by the sunlit side of the planet and took pictures. The pictures showed that Mercury's surface is more heavily cratered than any other planet in the solar system. Craters are large rounded depressions that are created when a moving object strikes the surface of a rocky or icy object. A planet's atmosphere usually creates a protective barrier that can cause objects to burn up before they reach the surface. Because Mercury has no atmosphere, objects can easily strike the surface and create craters. Mercury's surface contains large cliffs, which may have formed as Mercury's interior slowly cooled and shrank. This caused the surface to crack as the interior moved towards the center, forming the huge cliffs on the surface of Mercury.